So, hi there. It's time for the Tool the Cups. And also, probably I should go through more into each of the decks I have also. I think that, I would relax to listening to that. But anyways, these I should have come to think about this to begin with, but this is from the Gothic, I think it's called Tarot. I don't have the deck, but I like the ISS of it. So let's see now. I don't have it yet, but I don't think actually I will maybe buy it because I'm not so fond of all of the cards. That the colors are the same all the time in it, but okay. So let's see, where are we? I've written down something to keep to the topic. Surprising. So, and also about it can represent the Grail. That kind of is obvious. So the quest for the Grail and all that, and I will read something about that, or rather, try to translate it. That is also to transform our fate to our higher purpose, our destiny. So this legend have many variations, of course, but this is a myth from 11th century, and about Parsifal and his search for the Holy Grail. And as it's written here, it says that Parsifal here is a little boy who lives a very protected life, and his mother, Heart Sorrow, I think you would translate it, have already lost her husband and 2 sons in battle, and she's also afraid that Parsifal will follow that and in their trace and become a knight and die an horrible death. And so she raised him in the forest far away from civilization. So Heart Sorrow lived to protect her son from life. I must just pick something. It's good this is ASMR, so you can fall asleep in between when I talk sometimes. Yeah. And one morning when Parsifal is playing out in the woods, he meets a group of 5 knights that are dressed in shining armors, and they carry these long lances, and he is irreversibly or irresistibly, it's called, drawn to their world of adventure. Having to put my glasses on also. Not prepared one bit beforehand. Let's see. And he gets so captured by these proud knights and their, there is words, but their equipment that they have on them, and he immediately decides to leave at home and become a knight as well. And his terrified mother prays and begs that he will not leave her, but Parsifal have already decided to journey to the court of King Arthur and become one of these legendary knights around the round table. And there is so much about these myths. I've learned a little bit, but I'm not studied them in depth, although I was in a Celtic coven, which is strange, where it much was surrounded, there is so much depth into these, and also ancient myths that these are built upon, and so. But but there are so much symbolism in each of these things that are said also here. But the young man gets his mother's blessing, and with that, a simple clothes of sorts that she wove to him to carry, and she say that he have to respect all women and that he should not be curious and not ask any questions. And with these gifts and warnings, what is happening here? So, sorry, something just fell here, so, yeah. Okay. It is fixed. Okay, moving on. Maybe I should whisper. So anyways, about him then. He goes and, I think I will whisper. I'm in a whispering mood now, suddenly. And, he goes with these gifts and warnings to become a knight and fulfill his destiny. And when he comes to the court of King Arthur, dressed in his mother's home-woven clothes, he asked to be dubbed as a knight. Knight, as someone mentioned there, yeah. And the boy from the country then got laughed at by everyone in that hall. But Parsifal, he keeps saying that over and over again, that he wishes to get an audience at the king. And the court then, at the court, there is a young maiden who have not been smiling or laughed for 6 years, and the legend says that she won't laugh again until the best knight in the world shows up. And when she sees Parsifal, she surprises everyone in the court by delightfully just burst out in laughter. So who is this boy who have accomplished what no one else have accomplished or succeeded with? Can this foolish and untried Parsifal really be the knight they had waited for? And the king says to Parsifal that if you want to join the round table, you have to fight and defeat the Red Knight, the most terrifying knight in the whole kingdom. He also said to the boy that if he can get the horse and the armor, he said not equipment, I said the armor from the Red Knight, or he can get that, if he managed to take them from him in battle. So Parsifal challenges this feared knight, and despite the lack of experience in battle, he kills him with one lucky strike. And Parsifal have then won and take the Red Knight's armor upon his home-woven clothes. And Arthur dubbed him as a knight. Yeah, I read crappy, but I love this story. I love all of these stories, so that's also one thing I would love to read about. But they are very Christianized stories. They are very influenced by that era, but these stories are older than that, and they meant different things then. But anyways. Yeah, and the next assignment is to find the Holy Grail and take it home to the court of King Arthur. There is an old wise man, Gurnemanz, what a name, who give him useful instructions as guidance in the search. he is very stern with his advice, and he says that if he should ever find himself in the what is that called now, the Grail, this fort or so, maybe you could call it Grail Fort. I will say that because I don't know the name sometimes. And find this holy relic, you have to ask who serves the Grail. Yeah. And before Parsifal goes out for this adventure, this nightly adventure, he decides to go visit his mother to show her what he have accomplished. But when he arrives to her house, he finds out that she died of sadness when he left. So tortured by guilt, Parsifal ride along and soon he meet Blanchefleur, the White Flower, a beautiful young maid whose castle is overtaken, and he prays, or she prays, of him to save her. So he storms out in battle and defeats bravely her attackers and win back her kingdom. And after the battle, he stays for one what is the word for this? Virtuous night with Blanchefleur, and in the morning he continues on his hunt for the Holy Grail. Like, they didn't do nothing there. Poor Blanche. No. Anyways, one day when Parsifal seeks for a house to spend the night in, he meets some farmers who tell him that there is no room the nearest 5 miles. But soon he stumbled upon a man who sits alone in a boat in a lake and is fishing. And he's a fish. You hear how I translate it. He's not a fish. Maybe. Anyways. This fisherman invites Parsifal to stay over at his home nearby, and he describes the road there and send him away. So, to the young knight's surprise, this home of the fisherman is truly this famous what did I say now? Grail. Oh God. Yeah, not castle, but yeah, maybe you could say. Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway. Yeah, I forgot the word for that now. If that's even the right word, what I said before. When Parsifal then crosses this water grave, then he meets a dreamlike and overwhelming abundant world in there, with the court is contained of 400 knights and the ladies that surrounds the Fisher King, who lays in pain and turns around and he is laying there in his own feces, and he's inflicted by a wound in the thigh that is unhealed since long way back. And Parsifal realizes that the man he thought was a simple fisherman in reality was the Fisher King. And so they are doing preparations that's a Swedish word suddenly in there, preparations for a large ball or so, and during which the Fisher King gives his sword to Parsifal. And as part of these festivities, he brings the Holy Grail forth, and it's sent around the members of the court. Everyone drinks through it and are allowed to wish something, aside from Parsifal and the Fisher King, who aren't allowed to drink from the Grail until his wounds are healed. And during this dinner, Parsifal is silent and very careful to follow his the warnings from his mother and not ask any questions. And the whole court watch him curiously, since they have waited very long to see their prophecy to be fulfilled. And the legend says that a naive young man one day will come to this Grail castle, I said, and ask the Grail question, and through that finally liberate its force and make the king well. Oh, I the hair on my arms is stand up now, because this means so many things right now. Wow. I didn't realize that before I started to read it. I just thought about the cups and that it can relate to the Grail, and I didn't think it through this story. I really have something to say, I think. But Parsifal say nothing, and the next morning this castle it's empty there then. And he continues further with his new sword at his side, at the side there, with him anyways. And this castle of the Grail vanishes in the distance behind him. And during the years to come, he make many advantages. Nightly he slaughter dragons, and he defeat animal knights, and save young maids. And he realizes this greatness that King Arthur saw in him. And he get also rumor that he's a very skilled knight. And the rumor reaches King Arthur, who asks the knight to be taken back to the court, to his court. And there is a large festival and a tournament that is held in Parsifal's honor, and he is honored with the highest prestige and respect that a knight can have. And during these festivities, the height of these festivities, an old witch shows up. And before everyone, she counts up a litany, it says here, I don't know what it means, but even in Swedish, but of Parsifal's many sins and faults and misdeeds, of which the most flagrant is that he wouldn't ask the Grail question when he had the opportunity to do so. And humiliated and what is the word for that? Anyways, he gets humiliated, and so by this witch, and Parsifal again go out to search for this Grail castle, but the only thing he finds is more battles and okay. So I'll stop whisper then. no, but so it's not so relaxing anyways the ways I read it, but I will continue to try to half whisper. I don't know if I can whisper really good, but anyway. So where am I now? Yeah, so he goes away, but the only thing he finds is more battles and more troubles. So one day when he starts to become old, he finally meet a group of pilgrims who lecture him because he carry his armor on the, what is that called now, Long Friday, but before Easter then, one of the holiest days of the year, and they lead him to an old hermit who lives far in the woods, and exactly like this old witch, he kind of yells at the knight for not asking the Grail question. And when Percival take off the armor and these home-woven clothes that he have carried so many years, then this hermit leads him finally to this Grail castle. And when Parsifal's years of adventure now started getting to their ends, he finally get an opportunity to prove what he go for in this his most important mission. And Parsifal find this castle, as I call it, and he steps forward and asks this magical question: who serves the Grail? And eventually everyone can rejoice, and this holy Grail is sent around, and the Fisher King can drink from it, and he is finally healed. So there are many ways to interpret this, also in greater, like the nature's blah blah everything, but there is other things that are said here. Maybe I should go there. Oh, this get a little bit... I don't know if I even get time to talk about the other things now if I go further into this. Maybe it's enough that way. I will see. No, I think I won't really, at least not now. Yeah, well, I will go into that then. This myth, anyway, talks about many things, but what it takes to change our lives and not be governed by fate, but instead fulfill our higher purpose or a higher destiny. And so when Heart Sorrow cryingly sends her son out in this clothes she herself have made, she tells to him not to ask questions and to respect all young women or maids. And then she dies and comes back with the worst nightmare that can be thought of for this responsible, nice boy. And that is that if he leave his mother and become independent, she would die without him. And this can be related to other women that are motherly. Moving on. The home-woven clothes represent this curse from Parsifal's ancestry. Not actually curse, but you understand what I mean. That you carry this initial wound that prevents him from maturing. So as long as he carries these clothes, he will continue, or he will stay mature and dependent in relation to his mother. And since the mother asked him not to ask the Grail question, he doesn't. And through that he missed out on a very important opportunity in his youth to take the step into his higher purpose. So then it will take him almost a lifetime to find that purpose again. And in the same way, we all, or many of us, get a taste of the Grail early in life. Possibilities that show up, or right person to marry, or right, dharma, or the work we have to do in our lives, and so the choice. But we do nothing of that, and then many years passes before we finally find our way back to our high purpose and to our true calling in life, or dharma then. And in many cultures all over the world, for example the Hopis or the Celts or the Yoruba tribe in South Africa, boys who reach teenage years, they learn to embrace the earth as their eternal mother and view the sky as their unwavering father. And these boys get to learn that there is their place out in the world, or rather that their place is out in the world, and their biological mother and father cannot longer give them what they need. So, and this does not happen in the Western cultures where we protect the children of them from the world. But those cultural ceremonies, confirmation and celebration of 18 years, getting, we turn 18 and we get all kinds of liberties, or bar mitzvah or so on. They are meant to lead our children to more maturity and autonomy, I think, also. But they have been deprived of their meaning very much. So we concentrate on the party, on the festivities and the gifts and presents. So many don't cut our ties to our parents. We don't need to cut them, but get free, liberate ourselves from their hold on our values and all that, so that we can choose her freely. And then we use many years to also blame our mothers from problems, or run away or run home to our parents to ask for help of things. Yeah, do I see myself here? Yeah. And we are held back, as Parsifal also was here, by limiting cords or ties to our parents that prevents us from heal our own wounds, And like him, we need to take those home-woven clothes off and find our place in the world. And many try to have us stay in our fate, so to speak. And when Parsifal meets Blanchefleur, for example, I'm sure you say that differently because it's like French. It's not so difficult, I'm sure, but I cannot pronounce us. Whose name then is a symbol for the outermost purity. She becomes his lifelong inspiration and drives him to protect what's pure and to fight for the good and instead of the evil. And Parsifal followed his mother's advice and never go forward with his love, let's say, with Blanchefleur, and he refused to let himself seduce her or to be seduced by her. Their only night together passed by without them making love, and there is no second night in this story. And Blanchefleur had, if she had been a real woman, this relationship would have been absurd and over-idealized. Then this would be someone who searched for their whole life for a woman who have this absolute purity, and to long for a woman that you have spent just one night with. So we cannot know a woman of flesh and blood could ever be compared with this idealized picture. But so we can see this Blanchefleur is like what Carl Jung would call then the anima, or the inner feminine. Anima is the Latin word for soul. So when you take back your whole soul and follow her guidance, you can break free from the patterns. I wouldn't say curse, but the patterns of your ancestors and their lives. That was affected by a lot of suffering and disease and so. And the Greek called this aspect of the soul for daimon, or not demon, it's Daimon, our spirit or guardian angel, our protective angel. Our daemon leads us through life as long as we respect and are truthful towards her. And if a man is truthful to his inner guidance, he will develop and mature, but if he try to avoid this inner female aspect, he will instead try to find her in physical form and marry some idealized picture of the feminine instead of a real woman. He maybe jump from woman to woman in a unconscious search for his inner female aspect in physical form, and stubbornly try to make his partner fit into his illusion of what a woman should be or look like. And if it's a woman that are fooled by this illusion of physical beauty, she will not find the beauty in her inner female aspect. So it's nothing wrong with outer beauty, it's just not the important thing. So the myth of Parsifal reminds us that there is it's not always easy to be truthful to our own daimon, and that's why the witch shows up there at the court, and she shows all these flaws of this man that is behind his armor. And the witch, or the crone, it's called, from Greek chronos, which means time. That picture, when he ate his children, oh my. But anyways, is a diamond that shows up again and demands attention. It's the same aspect. So this figure is in many myths and tales and legends and so on as a person who says the truth, and often say things to the hero that he does not want to hear, and who chose parts of his soul that have been neglected. In our lives, this witch come to us as an unpleasant meeting with a naked truth, or a transformative life experience. For example, a very important relationships crash down, or we get sacked from our jobs, or disease, or crisis, or divorce, or loss of someone that means a lot to us, or something like that. She comes in those forms sometimes. And in the myth of Parsifal, the purpose of the witch is to show our hero that although he have the outer persona of the knight, if he haven't that within himself that is healthy and sound, then he have lost his soul, and he have one-sidedly spent time on outer things and neglected his diamond. So, and in the end of this story, his armor have become a prison that is contained by material, status, or these things that you have accomplished, but he have lost his inner world. There is no love or human intimacy, and he have also failed with the only assignment that have any meaning, and that is to find this grail. And the witch, when she I don't know the translation. I just hear that by the back of my mind, that song again. On the knees, boy. No, but when she humiliates Parsifal, yeah, that's the word, by revealing his darker aspects and say nothing about what he have accomplished. He is totally the words, but he he becomes like nothing, and everything he values shows to be just a farce. And in this desperation, he is forced to reevaluate his life and the purpose of his life and ask, what's the meaning with my life? And that's the turning point for Parsifal, and an important moment where he eventually is forced to go back to this search that he had, the higher purpose of his life that he got lost in his youth. And even though this experience, he can only do that he have always done. So he returned to his horse and his armor, but now we have the accomplishments as a knight have no longer any meaning to him, and he knows that although he longed for something more meaningful, he's still trapped in this wheel of destiny, or wheel of fate, you could say, because that's like fatal, he feels. And it doesn't matter that he have got the clothes from, or a heritage from his father, or the clothes his mother, the role from maybe his brother, and the clothes that his mother wove for him. He's like depressed here. And the witch, the holy feminine, the soul that shows here as the old lady, the crone, after being neglected for so many years, she shows up again to remind Parsifal of this fact, that he lives his life without joy and without any idea of what to do about it. And in this state, that's when these pilgrims find him, these like holy pilgrims, and they ask him why he is armored for a war when it's one of the holiest days of the Christian calendar. And they lead him deep into the woods, which is also a symbol for the dark feminine, and the old hermit shows him the way to the Grail Castle, where he finds his voice and asks who serves the Grail. And eventually Parsifal gets an opportunity to escape his destiny and live and die for the sword, as his father and his brothers did before him. And he can now, let's see now, he can escape. Did I say he can now? He can escape his destiny to live and die for the sword, as his father and brothers did before him. And he can now live a spiritual life. And the Grail Castle is now a metaphor for finding his higher purpose that have always been there for Parsifal. He just had to be ready for it. And when he eventually turns inward, he realized that the Grail Castle and the Holy Grail is close by. Oh, it continues, but I get shivers. I don't read it well, but the story is awesome. So, and one of the lessons in this myth or tale is that while our fate may seem unavoidable, this Grail Castle, our higher purpose, is always waiting around the next corner. There are times in our lives when we ask, what's the purpose within my life? And this story about Parsifal have been used as tradition to shine light on men's, especially in search for meaning in life. But also women meet the same dilemma, like, when will all the battles be done? Like, when will we be able to put down our sword? And, this Rumi come out of the circle of time and come into the circle of love. or something like that. Anyways, the myth of Parsifal shows that we have like fumbled our way through parts of a great part of our lives to find true satisfaction, and then we come to a point when we hand ourselves over to a power greater than ourselves, if it's God or our Dharma or life purpose or some other form of grail. But yeah, there is much more chapters about the grail, so I will just drop that now. Whoa, I just 20 minutes left before I talk for an hour, and I'm sorry about how badly I read that, but I hope you got something out of it if you had the patience to listen to that. I should prepare. I should really prepare. Now when I do them more often, even less inclined to prepare or change, even if I talk crazy. All right. But okay, moving to that was like, I enjoyed to actually see things that I hadn't seen before now. But okay, but to the cup anyways. As a tool in magic, it's a magical tool. You can of course use you can always use ordinary household objects as ritual tools, because also you don't really need tools, but they can come handy. But during the times of the witch hunts, they would also how to disguise that, and also the other way around, when it was a reputation that they were like mean or it was seen as belonging to the devil, witches, when they were burned and drowned and so on, because they just possessed objects that those witch hunters, customed as blasphemous. So, anyways, so I won't go into my own. I have a few chalices or so, but also about transformation. I can say I have tiny ones that I got from my granddad. I have a black one and so on. But also I do these daily offerings to my ancestors, and then I use whatever actually, glass just, but it's the ritual I do. But anyways, that are those that I mostly use. But the meaning of the cup, anyways, as also it's, as I see it in Western, representing water, and so it's and that could be wine or blood or the transformation, in all kinds of ways, or fog, or water can transform, So, and also as it's in the Suits of Cups, obviously, it represents in Tarot then emotions, receptivity, flow, love, and the female principle, dreams and visions, intuition, the womb, regeneration, rebirth, cycles, lunar mysteries, nourishment. And that's also the only tool of these four that are really that for that purpose. The disc, if there is some tarot cards, the pentacle is like a disc that could be used as a plate, like eating or so. But this is like the cup is the nourishment, and that's also for the emotional, representing the emotions of us also. And when it comes to the tools, I don't put much. I love beautiful objects, like beautiful engraved whatever cups and so on. It's awesome, and maybe I would have a lot of those if I had a lot of money, I don't know, but they are not very important to me. But you can of course choose what you like, or even decorate or whatever yourself, and also to wrap your magical tools. It depends. I mean, especially if you don't live alone and have a lot of people running around with other energies and so. I have not had mine wrapped up wrapped in, or what you say always, but and water also represents the depths of the subconscious mind and the flow of, as I said, of energy and emotions, everything really. And West also represents endings, transitions, and death, limitlessness, because water don't recognize formal boundaries, and it won't discriminate. And also for those outward and inward expressions, that would be for the power to dare, the ability to go beyond the known boundaries, and the inward expression of the element of water would be the power to accept, to recognize the boundaries. And that is about the power of fearlessness, the power to dare. And if you dare, then you glide naturally as the water across that artificial line that are drawn in the sand by culture or ethnicity or family or such. And there is a lot of water magic you can do, of course, or also just if you can be out in nature, of course, good, but also in a bathtub or so, or even showers that you can use water for transformation and cleaning. I mean, cleansing, of course, but also the energetic body. And if you're too floating, if you're too much in your emotion, you may need to ground yourself, the element of earth then. Yeah, but all these outdoors natural sources like a lake or stream or ocean or so is the most potent. I mean, that's where you can relate to this energy most that it represents, but also a bowl or a cauldron or and also I will get to that if I get time, but and for the power to accept anyway, it's also defining and honoring our boundaries is about that, to ground ourselves in what is, the now, the power of now, and let go of things. To the power of now. And the elementals are the undines, or maybe mermaids you could say. And as I said, it represents a womb. The creativity, the new creations that are manifested, new life, comes from. And also Caridon's cauldron, of course. And in voodoo, there is very much interesting things here about this. The waters above and below, and so the below where our ancestors live, and also in many similar practices, they have this practice with jars where they keep the spirit. And I've worked with this a lot with myself, to keep my own spirit stable. That's one of the practices that I do to not get into that place where I get totally a wreck and devastated. Then I blow my spirit into that jar, and when I have my spirit, but when it's high, when I have a lot of energy, I contain some of it there, so that if something very destructive happens, this may not sound as if it worked, but try it out if you don't feel good, especially. I would, at least. I've never heard anyone else doing this, so be mindful of that. This is just my own practice. And when I've felt like crushed, or like I've lost myself, like almost like a soul lost, sort of, when situations around have made me forget about this strength, then I've gone back to that and opened the lid, and immediately, my own spirit come back to me. So that's one way, but many also use jars as keeping spirits in. That's like their homes in the home, so they don't roam around, also do mischievous things, but also to have their special place. And that's one way you can not use the cover. Usually that would have a lid then, but it's not that you capture them. It's rather that's a loving, that's creating a space and a home for them where you are. So, and also when it comes to the moon, where we can, where the moon is contained also, but not captured. And as the womb is also the ocean, the source of all life, and inspiration, loving relationships, also spiritual love. It represents so many good things. Rainbow, and all the bridges between heaven and earth, the flow of the menstruation, fertility, and the great mother creates subtly through those pressures and pleasures of the waters, all the sap in the trees, the rays in the spring, and flowing of the tides, yeah. And to dare to feel also with intensity, not to detach, but to fully go into experience and be receptive and reflective, contemplating. It also means joy, generosity, overflowing, but it can also be empty, of course, the cup. So abundance, understanding, on the level of emotions, and all embracing love. I mean, of course, you can scry also in each of those elements, but it's also common to talk about scrying into water, and openness. That's part of it, since it's open, connected to the season of autumn and west, and the wands is connected to summer, fire south, pentagram to, or pentacle to winter, earth north, swords to air, east and spring. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but also, as I said, I think I said that you can use aces in the decks as tools. Also, I guess, for playing cards if you wish, if you didn't have anything else, until you gather your own ones if you wish then. But they are symbols, so it's the work with your mind that's the. The tools represent things that you already have and are. They are just physical objects or manifestations, or they're not manifestations. They are they are, but they are just representations of what you already have. So it's not that if you didn't have them that something would be lacking. So but they can remind you just to see objects. Yeah, I'm so forgetful when it comes to certain things. So when you see certain objects, you get reminded of these things. And if you work in a ritual setting with these tools, then you also get new insights of the correlations between these energies, and deeper understanding of how they work and how you can work with them, and how they work with you, and I wonder, I think there was so much more that I wanted to say, but it seems like I've talked for so long. I think I don't know what else to say. But as I said, generosity, some of them are very, easy to understand also as they pass this in the story, also pass the chalice or cup around. That is common practice in covens and so on. I think I will just, that was kind of brief, that swooshed away just using certain words. The way you can use these tools, there is no limit to it, and whatever you are inspired to. But these are also general meanings they have. And sometimes I use the bell. It's usually not, I guess, representing water, but since it's the female aspect of in Tibetan Buddhism, I can sometimes connect them somehow. Yeah. It has a similar form but upside down. I think I will just end because I don't really know right now, but probably I will get back to it. And maybe you have questions. Maybe you also have answers. Please let me know. I love if you share. I'm hesitant about the links, but I am also curious. But I won't. Maybe if you write and I can Google something or so, if anyone want to, or if you just write and lots about these things, No, do as you wish. I'm always interested to learn more, and yeah, I basically have my practice. I have some, general practice that many have also, but all of these things, I believe, unless you are a ceremonial magician, then you follow strict rules. But aside from that, all, I think, use their intuition and follow that what feels right for them, how to use the tools, and then you start to get to know the tools and the spirits, and also you will be guided. But you can also learn and pick things from other and get inspiration from what others do and how others do things, and see how that feels for you. So, but that was the Tool of the Cup. I hope you kind of enjoyed my stuttery reading, and I will soon be back. Much love to you all.